remove. Okay, she's gone. Okay,
Technology is your friend again.
sort of. Whoa, now I got it. Now I shrunk everybody down to a small window. I don't want to do that. There you are. All right.
Okay, so I have a short list of things that I would want to cover.
Okay.
One thing I would offer that I think I've just from listening to some of the comments today, if you get financial records from the CPA, I would recommend they be distributed fairly quickly. So if those come out next week, I would recommend they be distributed. I think it would be valuable information for your membership to make a decision.
We've been trying to get we've been trying. Yeah.
Well, I'm not questioning that you've been
Yeah.
trying, and I'm not questioning that there has been an incredible lack of appropriate accounting over many years. What I'm saying is that if you tell people that documents are going to come out or that the financials will come out and then don't share them, there will be an increased perception that you're withholding information. So even if you're
because we haven't handed things out. So.
Yeah. So even if you're concerned that the documents are not going to be accurate, it's going to be better to provide inaccurate documents than no documents. Unless, you know, the only substitute is a letter from your CPA saying why they're not producing them for you. Okay. And if that means you've got a set of documents that is correct, you know, or more correct for the last half of the year than the first half of the year, I would still give out what you have.
Okay.
And to the extent you can make the older records available, so that list which Chester had of all the old financials, if that has not been sent to your attorney, Joe Vance, I'd certainly send it to him. Send a copy of that list to me if you can.
That can happen.
I won't use it, but I'd like to know where it is.
I can get that to you. I have it all because I collected it from Stony, so I'll do that.
And I did not send you a copy of the management agreement. I can send that to you. I thought I sent that to you.
You know, it's possible it's in that zip folder that you sent me.
No.
I've been trying to not spend all my time just
Yeah.
out of curiosity looking at all your documents.
Yeah.
You know, there's some specific needs you have now. I'm trying to address those. If you want to retain me to do more than that afterwards, I'm happy to do that. But
Okay.
the immediate issue is this recall election. And I will offer, I don't normally take retainers, but I did send you an email. I'm concerned on this one because it's certainly a high probability that the board will change and then they won't want to pay my bill. And, you know, I'm less expensive an hour than Joe Flannery, even though arguably I have better credentials, but we have a trust account in the law firm. And so what I would like is if you would send a check to put into the trust account. And I sent you, Judy, the title of the trust account so that when bills come out, I won't take the money out of the trust account until the bills have been sent to the association and you have an opportunity to approve them. But it would make me feel like I'm not wasting my time working with this community.
Absolutely. We will take it. When did you send that to me?
I sent that email, I think it was last night with the draft of the process for the recall and election.
Okay. I'll
to
go
the
look at that
text
again.
of the text of that email.
I will forward that to the accountant and make sure it's paid tomorrow.
Okay, and I put it in bold, the name of the trust account. And then beyond that, my agenda item then is to talk about the scheduling of the recall meeting and the procedures for the recall and then the election following. I know there's a lot of hesitancy about trying to do it by mail because there is distrust over who's going to get it, how it will be done. I actually like mail, but the bigger concern is that doing an election by mail is incredibly challenging. And so even if you were to decide to do the recall by mail, I'd probably recommend that you be doing an election with a live meeting and a voice vote, meaning a roll call vote, where each owner is called in turn and gets to vote for who they want to put on the board.
Wouldn't that be handled by different people than us at that point?
Well, and that's part of what you'd want to figure out is who runs the meeting, or, you know, in your bylaws, it calls for inspectors of the election.
Okay.
And theoretically, those would be a couple of homeowners that people would agree would be honest and could keep a spreadsheet and tally up the votes and count them and announce. But when you're doing a voice vote anyway, everybody on the call can track how everyone has voted. And so it's really, really difficult to cheat the system. The only thing it doesn't do and cannot do is provide for secrecy of ballots. You can't have a secret ballot. Your documents don't provide for secret ballots anyway. So I sent a process which Joe Flannery agreed was a reasonable process. She did agree to my understanding of the documents regarding proxies and regarding the vote required to remove the board members. It does require a full 51% of the voting power to remove a board member. So if even a small number of the people who are attending the meeting were to support the current board, then the current board would stay in place. I think what you do have is a number of people who were happy to support having an election, not because they wanted to vote you guys off, but because they believe in a democratic process. They believe that if people want to call an election, they should have an opportunity to do that. You know, I had a client a few years ago where the board president was in tears because she had gotten this recall note from a faction of owners. And I convinced her that they did not represent the whole. And in fact, when the meeting took place, even though I think it was 30% had voted to have a recall meeting, 85% of the membership voted to keep her as president. And so the biggest challenge on getting an informed decision is information for the people. And unfortunately, right now, you've got a very vocal faction of owners, which has Gail and someone named Nikki, from what I can tell,
No,
and
That's
maybe
me.
Carol. I think
I'm Nikki.
There's a Nikki Hansen.
no.
No, that's Christy.
Hansen.
Christy Hansen, I'm sorry. So
And
Christy,
Celia.
there's two Christies.
Yeah.
So Christy Hansen.
And let me just
and
tell you that Nelia has just sent us two very, very ugly emails in the time that we were having this meeting.
doesn't surprise me. You've
Yeah.
got these people who are paying no attention to anything.
Yeah,
They are like rabid Trump supporters.
yeah.
Hopefully I'm not offending people by that reference. But, you know, it's like what is it, 21 million Americans who believe that the election was fraudulent and that Biden should not be president. And there is not particularly good evidence to support that. But if people want to believe, they're going to believe. And you cannot argue with them. A good explanation doesn't help. If you can produce any solid evidence that would support, I'll say, failures by the previous board or failures by Carol, that's valuable. But a narrative in word, you know, just someone telling a story is not going to help. So that's in some respects why, if you can get the financials, something similar to what Chester had put together, showing the losses every year. And if that was to be countered by an ability to show that the last 6 months of 2021 produced a net profit to the association of $50,000, that might actually be convincing to some people. But
You would think.
the, and then that's the other thing I guess I would say is that frequently when I see boards under attack, the board members feel like they're not allowed to tell people their story, or they're not allowed to contact people the same way. The reality is the same tactics that a group like Vicky, yeah,
Christy.
Poor
I'm
Nikki
sorry.
keeps getting
I
beat
know,
up.
I keep being called the two.
I'm sorry. The tactics
okay.
that Christie is using to sort of get out the vote or demand proxies, et cetera, those can be used by anybody. And they may seem pushy and unfair, and they are pushy. But that's one way of trying to make an argument, is that, you know, they are not supporting what they're doing with facts. From what I can tell, it's just stories. I think that there are multiple different agendas. I think Christie's agenda is different than Gail's agenda is different than Carol's agenda. Carol's been willing to find someone to do a lawsuit for her.
Carol was the one who was doing this the whole
Yes,
time.
her name showed up.
Yeah.
So most owners are not willing to spend their own money in order to try and champion their cause. And that's part of why it's easy to get some of these votes, is that, you know, one of the rumors is that if the board is thrown off, then Carol will drop the lawsuit.
Yeah.
I can tell you her attorney told me flat out that's not true.
That's what
And
she's been
I
telling me.
asked the attorney directly that question.
Is that
And-
something we can relay to homeowners? Because that's what people
They
are
won't
voting
believe us
on.
anyway. They won't believe us anyway, so it wouldn't
Nope,
matter.
they won't.
So
Well, the real question is, has Carol put out something formally stating that she will drop the lawsuit if the board is removed?
she never does anything formally. She tells people things and then
Right.
she lets them go out and spread the rumors.
So I think that you could say that there is, you know, that Carol has made no assurances to the association or anyone else that she will drop her litigation. And that it is certainly, it would be true if you said that her attorney told me that a change in the board would not change the lawsuit.
Okay.
That's good to know.
But it's all
Carol-
hearsay.
Carol is very good at telling untruths, and then when she's called on something, she just says, well, whatever. It happens at various meetings that she's done. Joe is her next door neighbor, and on the last town hall, Joe said that Carol is retained me to do this, and I don't work cheap. So she's in this, she has a retainer with Carol, but she's expecting the lawsuit to pay for that the retainer.
Sure, she's expecting, my guess is that she's expecting to go to mediation and have the insurance company make a settlement offer to Carol to pay her, which will include paying her attorney's fees. Because insurance companies don't like paying lawyers either. And so it would be easy for the cost to defend this lawsuit to exceed $100,000. And especially with the, I'll say the mess of records which you have to support what's going on in the past. Because instead of having good meeting minutes to show decisions made in the past, or even to say what Carol has done in the past, you've got a lot of stories, and so people have to do depositions, and then you have different memories of what happened in the past.
We have a lot of emails to substantiate a lot of our stuff though, too.
Okay.
Nikki has
And-
quite a few. So
I don't know what discovery requests have been made in the lawsuit. I don't know if your lawyer has requested all of Carol's documents. It's
Apparently,
certainly something.
you asked me to let him know that Joe Flannery had received a lot of things from us that she did not forward to Maren, and I did. And he did get those from Joe Flannery. They responded back to me today that he had received the documents that had been loaded up into her system earlier this year. So I do know he has those. So I do
It's
know
just
that.
you're missing an enormous number of documents that you should have.
Mhm, absolutely.
And I will tell
Uh,
you that Carol has them, Ken, because when I would ask for things, she doled them out to me when I first got on the board and was trying to figure out what we, like, can I see the LLC documents? Can I see the bylaws? She would give me a little bit and then I would be going off of what she gave me. And then she was like, oh, I forgot to give you this.
Well, you should ask Joe Vance to do a discovery request and get them all. I
Okay.
mean, that's something that the insurance defense should pay for.
Well, we did
not
ask
something-
our previous lawyer, Maren Colvert, to, I personally had asked for some certain documents because I'm trying to file an employee retention credit for us.
And I sent
And-
that to Ken to show him. an
Okay,
example.
so you have a timeline of that and I have all the emails to back that up, but we were told specifically by Maren that Joe Flannery told her that Carol did not have this information. However, 3 months later, she sent it all to me.
Well, all I'm saying is that the courts have a process.
Right.
Joe Vance can use that process to get information.
Okay.
And I would encourage you to let him know you need that done. Because you need the documents to help the owners understand what's going on.
Okay.
So you received the proxies that they supposedly collected yesterday and the votes that
Yes.
apparently showed removing us from the board by a majority of the homeowners.
No, they show that there was enough votes if every proxy voted that would do that. But one of the interesting things was that there were, like I said, more than 20 proxies assigned to Carol, but Carol gave a proxy to, is it Vicky
Christy.
now? Am I getting it right?
Christy.
I better just write that down. So Carol gave a proxy to Christy. Now, if Carol thought that Christy could vote all those proxies that were assigned to Carol, she's wrong. So if the proxy holder doesn't show up, those votes disappear. So I didn't understand why Carol would have given a proxy to Christy,
No.
because if she didn't show up, all of the votes would just be lost that were assigned to Carol. And if Christy didn't show up, none of her proxies could be cast either.
I believe they were both there, correct?
There
Bob?
was
That's my
no meeting.
understanding.
Remember, there was no meeting.
Yeah.
What happened last night was a discussion amongst owners. It was not an association meeting. And no one is claiming it was. No one is claiming you were voted off the board last night.
Oh, some are.
I can tell you that the attorney for Carol is quite certain you're still on the board.
Okay.
And she doesn't want you all to resign before the day of the election if you were to choose to resign. She would like you all to resign because it makes her life easier, but she doesn't want it to happen until the day of the meeting,
Why?
because she does not want the association to have no board.
What happens if we do?
Well, the question would be, who can make any decision on behalf of the board? Who can call a meeting? And there would be no one. And so it's better to have somebody, and this is something I said to you too, Judy. I would rather you be on the board. And if you want to resign, just have it effective at the meeting. So did all of you have a chance to look at the procedures which I put together?
I
Yeah,
looked through.
and I thought that if we go forward with a date, February 10th would be fine with me, and we send out all the appropriate notices, at least 17 days, but I'd rather do 20 days ahead of that.
Well, it's not going to be able to go out before Monday. So you'd get, I guess you'd have 17 days. Your bylaws only require 10 days. And by statute, notice is considered given when it's put in the mail.
Yes.
So you can give more days if you think it's appropriate. The only reasons to give more days might be that you expect better information to be available, or you want more time to try and, get out the vote or get people interested. It does look like there's about 25 owners who are not participating in any of what's going on. And I don't know if that's because they support you or they're just completely apathetic and indifferent, or they can't be contacted.
A little bit of all of that, I think.
Also, they're afraid to get involved. There's been a lot of ugliness, and I think there's a lot of, at least I've heard from a few people that they just don't even want to be associated with any of it.
And that is unfortunate. I don't know how many of the owners are actually investors and how many are really just trying to have a vacation home, which might pay for part of itself through the hotel operations. I understand there's at least some owners who want to be able to freely rent their units without any participation by the hotel operation, so that they can get 100% of the revenue from their Airbnb or however they want to do it. What Joe is saying is that these were intended to be essentially residences. And I'm sure that's not the case.
That can't be, because Long Beach zoning laws restrict that. It's a weird, you can stay there for 3 days, but you have to check out on day 30.
And
But I
Carol
don't
was,
know if that was true when the declaration of Condo was formed. So you'd have to look back at the 1970s zoning to know if that's true.
well, Carol was the real estate agent that was in charge of the condo that was sold to me. And she mentioned that quite specifically, that it was 21 days a month, 3 weekends, 2 in the summer. She forgot to mention the fact there was all the money that we owed on loans. That's my fault for not getting to it. But she knew exactly what it was for, but now she would like to go a different direction.
No, it
Does the
wasn't.
association issue resale certificates?
We do.
I
Yeah,
have not received one.
I
Well, in
didn't receive
theory,
one
you-
either, and Carol sold me my unit, and it was sold the same way as a rental pool. That's why I paid the price I paid for it. I had a long discussion with her about it, so I understood what was going on. I got the bylaws, I got the,
I can show
This is-
you because I'm a realtor, I can show you how many, just an average of how many of the units Carol has sold in the past few years. She's sold at least 90% of the units.
Well,
She's a licensed CPA, Ken, and she's a licensed real estate agent.
if she's a CPA, she's running way short of fulfilling her
No kidding.
obligations.
you don't say.
So there's been no audit of the association in the
No.
past 20 years.
Nope.
No. The reserves, there's 0 reserves.
See,
And
one of the
that's-
questions I had for Joe Vance was whether or not any counterclaims were going to be brought against Carol for, we'll say, her breach of her duty as a board member in the past. And I would say there's almost certainly a breach of her duties in serving on the board because of the way that the board was managed in the past. Part of the problem is asserting that claim could mean that there's equally claims against other board members and former board members. But they're not suing the association, so there may not be a reason to do anything about it. And I asked Joe Vance if there was a reason strategically to assert claims against her individually or in response, which would, number one, allow the insurance company to pay for it, and secondly, give her some greater incentive to settle. Now, his response was that he didn't want to do a lawsuit against her or a counterclaim, but that he certainly was expecting at mediation to hold out that here were the claims that could be brought against her if she didn't settle. So if she is a CPA, then she has, I would suggest, a higher duty of care in performance of her duties as the treasurer and as a board member, because, for example, she should have known that a CPA audit was required on an annual basis. And the commingling of funds is not a clear-cut issue. The way it's written in the complaint is that the fact that the revenue from the hotel rooms goes into a pot along with the LLC's rooms is commingling, and I actually don't think that is. The commingling would mean if you took, say, the reserve account for the association or the operating account that you're paying bills out of, and combined that with the account for the LLC or the whatever their name is, Harbor Properties Investments.
Yeah.
The law was written actually to prevent real estate companies, because when you have apartment houses under real estate management, they frequently have a single large bank account, and you just have the accounting done for each of the individual properties. But they are one bank account. And for whatever reason, in 1990, the statute for condos was written and said that you could not have your bank account for the association combined in that same way. So you have different income streams that you're dealing with. You've got the HOA dues. Those should be going into an account controlled exclusively by the association.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
You have the payments from the hotel management company that are made to the association that should go into the association's account. Apparently you have some bills like insurance and your lease payment that are paid exclusively from that account. The fact that you have other income sources like from the hotel operation that are commingled with the hotel operation of the LLC, that is not an income stream that's directly to the association. Those are fees that might be appropriately handled through the management company. You know, the other hotel that I work with out in Lake Chelan, they have a separate management company that handles the rental pool. About 70 or 80% of the owners participate in that. And that company collects all of the hotel income, pays for all of the staff, all the laundry services, everything else, and then distributes money as a fee back to the association, and then distributes money to each of the participants in the rental pool. So in theirs, none of the money from the rental pool hits the association's bookkeeping, but it's a different method of dealing with it. And I will say, before I got some of the information I had today, I didn't understand why the board would have entered into an agreement accepting only 7% of the rental of the hotel revenue. But I think I understand it now. And I think that it is supportable as a rational business decision. Even though I'm certain Carol is saying it's not, because it's alleged in her lawsuit.
Mhm.
I'm sure you've got other investors who just want to find some way to make more money. And if the management agreement is precluding them doing that, then they want to get rid of the board that supports the management agreement. I don't know how they anticipate getting out of the management agreement. And that's not been something I have been engaged to deal with. So I'm not
Well, and
dealing with
we've-
that now.
Historically, we've never made any money. Historically, we've ended in the hole. So homeowners have not received anything back ever, in years at least, in many, many years.
There's
Right,
never
and
been
then
a
I'll say
property
that
tax.
confuses me because it seems like you ought to be able to generate revenue operating
Yeah.
the hotel.
Yeah, you'd think.
You know, the
We're,
units in
we're
my,
oceanfront. We have beautiful property. There's no reason why we shouldn't have been making a profit.
my client in Lake Chelan, you know, they are only occupied, you know, really from Memorial Day through Labor Day. They get a little bit of business in the Christmas season. But I mean, they're literally empty for 7 months of the year.
Mhm.
And yet the income stream they get justifies a value on most of the units of over $200,000 just because of the revenue stream they get.
Mhm.
And it's a little hard to believe that you wouldn't command pretty much equally good revenue if you've got the facilities.
But the facilities were let to go so badly. It really bad. I mean, the concrete on the walkways were breaking to the point that you could look down and see the walkway below.
Right. And so the challenge really is, you know, you've got certainly a block of owners who are just unhappy with something about the revenue contract. And others who are just unhappy that they keep having assessments and special assessments. You've got at least one owner who's unhappy they can't live in their unit full time.
And he was promised that he could by Carol when he bought his unit.
I was thinking more in terms of Gail.
Gail. Well, Gail
Mhm.
owns 2 units now, so she just goes back and forth between the 2. I think, I don't know what, you know, one wonders, but
Anyway, so in terms of a decision tonight about the notice and procedure for the meeting,
Mhm.
I think I would recommend you make a decision and that
We
that
have
be
to.
something you can announce in the general meeting after you're done with me.
And you're recommending the proxy. I
I'm
see, I don't
I'm
want to be
recommending the
have to
process,
deal with
which I
these.
know will be accepted by Carol's lawyer. And I believe is a way to get a fair and accurate vote.
But they all have to come into me and then I have to send them to you, and it's taking away from my job. And I'm tired of getting beat up by these people and having to take away from my job to do it. I spent my entire day today on this, and that's my, you know, I'm emotionally beat. I'm not sleeping at night and I have to work. This is not my full-time job.
So there would
the
be
idea of
two
doing it
things I could
again.
offer, on that. One is that you could hire a management company temporarily just to handle something like getting all of the proxies and conducting the meeting. There are, you know, there's a number of management companies that just work with condo associations and HOAs, and it might be possible to find one of those to do that so that when the proxies come in, they all go in place. A second thing to do would be, you know, if you set a deadline of the proxies to be due at noon the day of the meeting, you just don't deal with it until noon the day of the meeting. I would normally even say set up a separate email address so they just go one place. We could save some of the problem by telling people to email them to my office and Joe Flannery's office and the secretary at the same time. That would be a way that you might be getting them, but you're not having to deal with them.
it's just what the kind of vicious.
But it is,
feedback-
I agree. Is the CPA's office willing to do something like collect the ballots and count the votes?
I don't know. I would have to ask them.
Because you have a relationship with the CPA. I'm assuming they are trustworthy.
Well, our
If-
it's our accounting office that we do more work with. The CPA is more just doing the end of year taxes and K1s. So I don't know if they would.
I would still suggest it might be worth talking to the accounting office then and see if it's possible for them to handle sending the notice out and receiving the ballots and distributing them. And maybe even conducting the meeting. Someone needs to have a spreadsheet set up that they can open up on their computer. And as the votes are taken on a roll call basis, they are counted and tally up automatically at the bottom of the spreadsheet.
No, I know one thing we discussed, and it might be completely out of the realm, is that having all of the owners have to actually do a vote rather than assign a proxy to do the voting for them. And the reason we brought that up is, to me, it's a wonder that 20 owners can assign Carol as their proxy to vote as Carol decides when she's the one that's suing all the rest of the owners.
Well, the assumption is if a person shows up at the meeting, they're going to vote for themselves. Their proxy is void. And that's part of it. And the other thing is that some of the proxies were exclusively to remove the board and did not give Carol or Christie the ability to vote for their replacements. And I thought that was sort of interesting because it was a limited proxy that only allow for one vote. And so if those proxies were to come back the same way, you might get removed, but then those same people couldn't participate in the voting. The other thing that you can do is there's nothing to preclude you running for the board again after you've been removed.
No. That won't
Well,
happen.
that may sound strange, but I've had other situations where the whole board was thrown out in exactly this kind of vote. And after it was done and the membership got to vote on new people and they saw who was going to replace the board they just took out, they voted back on 40% of the board. Because in terms of how long they'd been on the board. So for example, Bob, you're a relative newcomer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. They may not agree with, or they may agree with it. We need to get rid of the whole board. But they may actually, when they look at the other choices, decide you are an objective outsider who can help lead the board and agree to put you back on. And
I think I would decline, though. I really do. I don't think that the people that they had on their notice that they put out for the town hall meeting, which was unofficial, but they actually put their own little names out as we're interested in serving on your board. And I would be distressed to have to serve with any of the people that mentioned that.
well, I'll tell you that Joe Flannery agreed with me that there was nothing to prohibit other nominations besides the people who said they wanted to be on the board, and nothing to prohibit existing board members from being nominated again.
Just
Not
a
saying you have to
question.
do it.
Two of the people that have put their names out there to be on the board, one of them didn't pay her assessments at all last year, is refusing to pay them. And one of them is the person who has that loan with the HOA, which was set up by Carol.
Mortgage.
And has not made a payment on that since last April. So they have significant outstanding debt.
So I think it would be reasonable for the treasurer to advise the rest of the members that these two nominees are delinquent to the association. Because those should be verifiable facts.
Name.
Well, that
them?
was done at the meeting on the 13th and he got ripped apart for
And
that.
Carol said that our bylaws didn't say anything about whether or not people owed money.
I will agree, the bylaws have no qualifications for serving on the board. If you were to rewrite them, I would put in that they could not be nominated or serve.
Well, that
If
was
they-
one of our goals this year, but we spent more time doing this, so it didn't get done. So anyway, okay, well, you guys, whatever you decide, I'll support.
I think, Bob, you were supportive of trying to have the meeting on January 10, Thursday.
And it's really kind of up to you if you're okay with thinking that'll be giving us time to do what needs to be done. I know you've put all of it into an email today. It looked good. 10th, 17th, whatever you think. I just soon get it done and move forward.
I will not communicate with another person, another homeowner under any circumstances between now and then. I won't do it.
I think that's all right.
If I stay.
I
at
think
home.
Chester will be sending out information and the notice of the meeting is going to have a lot of information in it.
And I'll make sure that I get all that information from Mike Stoney up on the site as well. And I'll get that to you as well, Ken.
Don, did you have a comment?
Jim.
Or Jim, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'll just go along with what everybody wants to do.
All right, well, let's pick a date for the meeting. Do you want to do the 10th, which is, I would say, at the early end of when it could be done? You could pick Monday, the 14th,
No, you cannot.
Tuesday,
That's my-
Wednesday, Thursday that week.
That's my birthday. You cannot have the 14th.
Happy birthday to you.
No.
And my birthday was Monday this week, so
Oh, happy birthday.
I got to turn 65, so.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well,
for
hey,
you.
that's an honor. Not everybody makes it to 65, so that's a good thing.
You're
It's
a young-
totally underrated.
yeah.
Underrated, yes. Okay, so the 10th.
Well,
What day of the week is that?
that's a
That's a
Thursday.
And be a week before the scheduled HOA meeting. If any of us are gone, they would have that meeting they could set up for their new leadership group.
Are you saying you've got us already scheduled an HOA meeting?
We always
Is
have
it-
one on the third Thursday of every month.
Correct.
Okay, that's a board meeting, not a
Board meeting.
HOA meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's different.
But homeowners are invited to attend.
But that's part of your culture that you
Yeah.
need to
Right.
get
Right.
away from,
Yeah.
Right.
is this idea that everybody gets to participate every month.
Well, it happened because of the seriousness of when we.
Red tagged. When we were red tagged and
It's
shut down.
just out of control right now,
It
and
is.
it needs something different.
What there was is there's normally 2 meetings a year, which were done in person before COVID, for homeowners to gather together at the condos and have an owners meeting.
So I would not care from the perspective of your board meeting. You know, if you don't want to do it the 17th, don't do it 17th. But otherwise, it's pretty much irrelevant.
Yeah.
The 10th is on the short end. If you want to delay it into the next week, I don't have any problem. I don't think Joe will have a problem with that. Joe understands that I did advise you not to do the roofing contract, and that my advice to you is don't do anything which is going to appear to you trying to, do lame duck legislation where you're, trying to get stuff done before you're thrown out.
Okay.
I don't
That's
think
right.
that was your intent. It's not why you were trying to do the roof, and I understand that. I just
Mhm.
didn't want it to appear that you have made a decision because that you were getting thrown off.
Mhm.
Well, then the 17th, the following Thursday, that'd be fine with me too. Gives
I'm
us
good
one more week
I'm
to
good with the 17th because that'll give us more time to get more information out there because we're just coming across more information to share. And I think, our documents are getting more updated, so it'd be nice to be able to get all that out before the proxies go into place, because
Yeah.
I think that's also part of it, is that people are voting with their proxies before they've had a chance to really see actual factual information.
I think that's
Okay,
true.
Judy?
So,
That's fine.
okay, then after we're done, which hopefully is soon here, you can, in regular session, go ahead and make a motion to have the recall meeting on the 17th of February, and the notices will go out next week.
Okay.
And if you want them to come out of my office, I can do that. If you want to just have me send it to somebody and it goes out elsewhere, that's fine too.
Okay.
They'll
And
mean
we
more.
have to decide where we want the proxies sent also.
Well, we need to talk to 4A to see if they could handle that. So I could find that out
But we don't
tomorrow.
have to know that until we actually send out the documents, right, Ken?
I think that, yes, that can be in the notice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if
So we
your
would need to
if
find
your
that out.
accounting service is willing to do that, I think that is a good compromise. I think that Joe Flannery would accept that.
Because I don't want to deal with it. That's why, I was like,
I understand
I
completely.
don't want to deal with it. So,
Yep.
And it takes away their argument that we're being unethical or unhonest.
right.
Okay, so then
Okay.
let's do the motion for the,
The
I think you
17th.
need to do that.
Okay.
And then hopefully by Monday or Tuesday, we can know whether or not the accounting company will receive
should-
the proxies.
Hopefully I
And-
can find that out tomorrow.
And
So-
even if they'd be willing to run your Zoom meeting or be the inspectors of the election to
They might
keep
be.
track of the votes during the meeting.
They're good at Zoom.
They are really good. And
They
Elizabeth can be,
Yeah, Elizabeth is great. She's
Well, that
she's-
sounds like a really good option for how to run the meeting then.
okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
But
And they can be the inspectors of the election.
Okay.
okay.
All right.
I'm moved to go back to regular session.
All right. I'm going to admit all right now.
Joe
Second.
second.